Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're discussing the controversial execution of Saddam Hussein, a topic that involves complex issues of law, politics, and ethics. Stick around as we break down what led to this pivotal moment and its lasting impact. Saddam Hussein's ascent to power can be traced back to a turbulent era in Iraqi history marked by coups, political instability, and growing anti-Western sentiment. Born in 1937 in Al-Awja, near Tikrit in Iraq, Saddam joined the Arab Socialist Ba'ath Party at a young age. Over the years, he rose through the ranks, primarily through shrewd political maneuvering and occasionally brutal tactics. His participation in a failed attempt to assassinate Iraq's then-president, al-Karim Qasim, earned him a reputation for daring ruthlessness. In 1968, after a successful coup led by the Ba'ath Party, Ahmed Hassan al-Bakr became the president and Saddam Hussein was appointed his deputy. In the following years, Saddam effectively became the power behind the throne, cementing his control over Iraq's security apparatus and military. By 1979, Saddam felt strong enough to seize power for himself. He forced al-Bakr to resign and initiated a purge within the Ba'ath Party, executing potential rivals and dissidents, thereby securing his position as Iraq's new president. His rule would be marked by autocracy, fear, and aggressive military action. Once in power, Saddam's regime was characterized by severe human rights abuses that shocked the international community, but were often overlooked for geopolitical reasons. He used chemical weapons against Kurdish civilians in the town of Al-Awja in 1988, killing thousands. This act was part of a broader campaign known as the Anfal campaign aimed at crushing Kurdish resistance, which resulted in the deaths and disappearances of tens of thousands of Kurds. His regime was also responsible for the brutal suppression of Shia uprisings, particularly in the aftermath of the Gulf War, leading to mass killings. Political dissent was not tolerated under Saddam's regime. Arbitrary arrests, torture, and executions were commonplace. Reports of forced disappearances were frequent. Political opponents, both real and perceived, were routinely executed or sent to prison camps. His secret police, the Mukhabarat, were notorious for their brutal tactics and infringements on human rights. Saddam Hussein's Iraq had a complex relationship with the Western world, especially the United States. During the Iran-Iraq War of the 1980s, Western powers, notably the US, supported Iraq as a counterbalance to Iran's Islamic Revolution. However, the invasion of Kuwait by Iraq in 1990 led to a complete breakdown of these alliances. The subsequent Gulf War was launched by a coalition led by the United States to expel Iraqi forces from Kuwait. The war ended in a decisive defeat for Iraq, but left Saddam Hussein in power, albeit weakened and isolated. The Gulf War was a turning point in Iraq's relations with the West. Post-war, Iraq faced severe economic sanctions led by the United Nations, aimed at forcing the country to dismantle its weapons of mass destruction. The sanctions resulted in widespread suffering among the Iraqi populace, but did little to weaken Saddam's grip on power. The Gulf War and its aftermath led to a significant reevaluation of Western policy toward Iraq. While Saddam Hussein had once been seen as a bulwark against Iranian influence, his actions in Kuwait and the subsequent human rights abuses highlighted the dangers of supporting such an unpredictable and ruthless regime. The role of the United States and its allies in the Iraq War has been a topic of intense scrutiny and debate. The invasion was justified by the George W. Bush administration on the basis that Iraq possessed weapons of mass destruction, OMDs, and was a threat to global security. The US-led coalition included significant contributions from the United Kingdom, Australia, and Poland, among other nations. The war commenced with a shock and awe bombing campaign, followed by a ground invasion. Within weeks, the Iraqi government had collapsed, and US forces took control of Baghdad. While the initial phase of military operations was deemed a success, the subsequent occupation was plagued with challenges including sectarian violence, insurgency, and the difficulties of nation-building. The coalition found itself embroiled in a complex conflict with various ethnic, religious, and political groups, each with its own agenda. The capture of Saddam Hussein on December 13, 2003, was a defining moment in the Iraq War and was touted as a significant victory for the United States and its allies. Saddam was found hiding in a small underground hole near his hometown of Tikrit, devoid of the grandeur and authority he once commanded. The capture was codenamed Operation Red Dawn and was carried out by US troops with intelligence support from various agencies. Saddam was found with a pistol, but he did not resist arrest, and no shots were fired during the capture. The event was heavily covered by the media, with images of a disheveled Saddam Hussein undergoing a medical examination being broadcast worldwide. U.S. President George W. Bush announced the capture with the phrase, "We got him," signifying the end of a long manhunt. The capture of Saddam Hussein elicited a wide range of reactions from around the globe. In the United States and among its allies, the capture was celebrated as a major achievement that could potentially herald a turning point in the troubled Iraq War. There was a general feeling of relief and accomplishment, and the Bush administration enjoyed a temporary boost in public approval ratings. However, in other parts of the world, reactions were mixed. Some viewed the capture as a symbol of U.S. imperialism and questioned the legitimacy of the Iraq War, especially given that the primary justification for the invasion, weapons of mass destruction, had not been found. International legal experts began to debate the conditions under which Saddam would be tried, raising questions about the applicability of international law and the potential for a fair trial under the occupation. Human rights organizations expressed concerns about the treatment of Saddam Hussein while in custody and urged that his human rights be respected. In Iraq, reactions were also divided. While many celebrated the downfall of a dictator, others saw him as a symbol of national resistance against foreign occupation. The sectarian divide further complicated the situation, with some Sunni communities feeling marginalized and targeted following Saddam's capture. The trial of Saddam Hussein was a subject of international attention and raised crucial questions about the administration of justice. One of the most hotly debated issues was whether Saddam should be tried in an Iraqi domestic court or an international tribunal. In the end, Saddam Hussein was tried in an Iraqi court, the Iraqi High Tribunal, which was set up with some assistance from the international community. The question of representation was another significant point of contention. Saddam Hussein initially represented himself before dismissing his foreign lawyers to be defended by Iraqi lawyers. The courtroom drama was intense, with frequent outbursts and confrontations. Throughout the trial, several of Saddam's defense lawyers were killed, raising concerns about the ability to conduct a fair trial under such circumstances. Saddam Hussein was charged with various crimes, including crimes against humanity and genocide. The most notable charge was related to the killing of 148 Shia Iraqis in the village of Dujail in 1982, following a failed assassination attempt against him. Other charges, like those relating to the use of chemical weapons in Al-Awja, were pending but were never brought to trial. On November 5, 2006, Saddam Hussein was found guilty of crimes against humanity and was sentenced to death by hanging. The verdict was met with mixed reactions, both in Iraq and around the world. Supporters of the verdict saw it as justice finally being served, while opponents questioned the fairness and legitimacy of the trial, given the various issues that plagued it. The appeals process was expedited, and the sentence was upheld. Saddam Hussein was executed on December 30, 2006, an event that itself was fraught with controversy and debate, further complicating the legacy of the trial.